I never imagined the happiest day of my life would also become the most terrifying. The day my daughter was born should have been filled with joy, but instead, I found myself locked in a bathroom, abandoned, and in excruciating pain, all because someone decided my emergency wasn't as important as a wedding. Let me back up a little. My name is Olivia, I'm 29, and my husband, Jake, is 31. Just 2 weeks ago, we welcomed our daughter, Lily, into the world. It should have been the start of a beautiful chapter for our small family, but I can't shake the nightmare that led up to her arrival. Jake comes from a tight-knit but complicated family. His younger sisters, Tessa 28 and Brooke 24, are wonderful people. I've always had a great relationship with them. Tessa, in particular, is one of the kindest women I know. But their mother, Diane, she's another story. Diane, 54, is the kind of person who needs to be in control. Everything has to go her way, and if it doesn't, she makes sure everyone knows about it. She raised Jake and his sisters alone after their dad left, and while I respect her sacrifices, her overbearing nature makes it difficult to be around her. She doesn't just want control, she demands it. Jake knows this about her. He's spent years learning how to manage her behavior while keeping the peace, but I've always kept my distance. And until 2 weeks ago, I thought that was enough. I was so wrong. The day everything fell apart was supposed to be a happy one, Tessa's wedding day. She was marrying Ethan, a wonderful guy she'd been with for years. I had originally been asked to be a bridesmaid, but once I got pregnant, I had to bow out. Tessa didn't mind at all, if anything. She was thrilled about the baby and constantly checked in on me throughout my pregnancy. But Diane? Oh, she was livid. She saw my pregnancy as an inconvenience, something that disrupted the carefully planned wedding timeline. She was never outright rude, but the passive-aggressive digs never stopped. I brushed it off, telling myself I was just hormonal. That illusion shattered on the wedding day. I was 38 weeks pregnant and felt like a balloon about to pop. I debated skipping the wedding altogether, but Tessa insisted I come. "You have to be there, Liv," she had told me, squeezing my hands. "I don't care if you waddle down the aisle or sit the whole time. I just want you there." So I went, and for a while it was fine. The ceremony was beautiful, and Tessa was glowing. I did my best to enjoy the moment, even as I felt exhausted beyond belief. Then, right before the reception, it happened. A sudden wave of pain tore through my stomach. I gasped, clutching the nearest chair as my vision blurred. My water had just broken. My daughter had chosen that exact moment to make her grand entrance. I panicked. I needed Jake. I needed to get to the hospital. That's when Diane appeared beside me, her expression unreadable. I was too overwhelmed to think much of it at the time. "Diane," I panted, gripping her arm, "please get Jake. My water just broke." For a second, she just stared at me. Then, in the calmest, most collected voice, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Let's wait a little while, sweetheart. We don't want to take attention away from Tessa, do we?" I thought I misheard her. Surely she wasn't suggesting I wait to give birth? "No, Diane, you don't understand." I tried again, my voice rising. "I'm in labor. I need to go now." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Just hold off for an hour, Olivia. It's Tessa's special day. We'll call Jake after the first dance." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she serious? I was about to have a baby, and she was worried about a dance? "Give me my phone," I snapped, trying to reach for it. But she was faster. Before I could react, Diane plucked my phone from my hands. Then, without hesitation, she pushed me into the nearest bathroom, shut the door, and locked it from the outside. I was trapped. I pounded on the door, screaming for help, but the music from the reception drowned me out. No one could hear me. No one even knew I was in trouble. Pain shot through my body as another contraction hit, harder this time. My legs buckled, and I collapsed onto the cold bathroom tiles, gasping for breath. This wasn't happening. This wasn't real. I was locked in a damn bathroom, alone, in labor, and no one knew where I was. And that was the moment I realized I might actually die here. Time didn't feel real anymore. I was crouched on the cold tile floor, my body shaking with pain as another contraction hit. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw ached, but I couldn't stop the whimper that escaped my lips. I tried to steady my breathing, but panic clawed at my chest. My phone was gone. My husband had no idea what was happening. And worst of all, Diane, the woman who was supposed to be my family, had locked me in here like I was some kind of inconvenience. I slammed my fists against the door, pounding as hard as I could. Help! My voice cracked. Somebody please! I am in labor. Nothing. The music downstairs was too loud. Laughter, clinking glasses, the sounds of a perfect wedding reception. And here I was, alone, forgotten. A sharp pain ripped through my stomach, forcing me to double over. I gritted my teeth, breathing through it as best as I could. How far apart were the contractions? I couldn't even think straight. 5 minutes? Less? I didn't have time. I needed to get out. Gripping the edge of the sink, I pulled myself up, my knees wobbling beneath me. My reflection in the mirror was pale and sweaty, my dark curls sticking to my forehead. I looked like a woman on the verge of passing out. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, trying to focus. Okay, Olivia, think. You can't stay here. You have to do something. I scanned the small bathroom. The only exit was the door, and Diane had locked it from the outside. The window above the toilet was tiny, and even if I could squeeze through it, I was on the second floor. Not exactly an option. I banged on the door again. Jake! My voice was hoarse now. Tessa! Someone? Please? Nothing. Tears burned at the edges of my vision. My stomach clenched again, my body seizing with pain. I gripped the sink, gasping. My baby wasn't waiting. Then I heard something. A soft knock. Hope surged in my chest. I stumbled toward the door, pressing my ear against it. Hello? Please, I need help. A small voice hesitant. Olivia? Brooke. Oh, thank God. Yes. Brooke, I'm in labor. Diane locked me in here. I need you to get Jake. Now. There was a pause. Then, just as I thought she might actually listen, she said I shouldn't. I felt the breath leave my lungs. What? Mom said it's Tessa's big day, and you're just being dramatic. Brooke's voice was uncertain, but there was something else there, too hesitation, like she wanted to help but wasn't sure if she should. I could not believe this. Brooke, listen to me. My voice was shaky, but I forced myself to sound calm. I am not being dramatic. My contractions are minutes apart. If I don't get to a hospital right now, my baby and I could be in serious danger. Please, get Jake. Tell him where I am. Silence. Then the sound of retreating footsteps. My heart dropped. No. No, no, no. She was leaving me. I let out a strangled sob, clutching the doorframe. My body was screaming at me, but my mind was racing. Was this how I was going to die? Locked in a bathroom at my sister-in-law's wedding while my mother-in-law sipped champagne downstairs? I felt dizzy. The edges of my vision blurred. My body swayed, and before I could stop it, darkness. When I woke up, I wasn't on the cold tile floor anymore. I was in a hospital bed. The beeping of a heart monitor filled my ears. The scent of antiseptic burned my nose, and then a hand gripping mine. Warm, familiar. Jake. I turned my head slowly, my throat raw, my body aching. My husband sat beside me, his face pale, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't stopped crying for hours. The moment he saw my eyes flutter open, his breath hitched. Liv, he whispered, his grip tightening. Oh God, Liv. I blinked at him, my mind still catching up. My memory was patchy pain, panic, banging on the door. Then I remembered Diane, the wedding, the bathroom. My heart pounded against my ribs. Lily, I croaked, my voice barely above a whisper. Where's... She's okay, Jake cut in, his voice shaking. She's perfect. She's in the nursery. But you... His breath shuddered and he looked like he was about to break. I thought I lost you. Tears welled in my eyes. Relief, exhaustion, anger, all of it crashed over me at once. I swallowed, my throat burning. What happened? Jake exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. Brooke came and found me. She was shaking, Liv. She said you were locked in the bathroom upstairs and Mom wouldn't let anyone check on you. I ran. I didn't even think. I just ran. My chest ached at the thought of Jake finding me like that, collapsed, barely conscious. I busted the door down. He continued, his voice thick with emotion. You were on the floor, burning up. You weren't responding. I thought. He swallowed hard. I thought you were gone. Tears slipped down my cheeks. Jake took a shaky breath. I got you to the hospital just in time. They said you were severely dehydrated and exhausted, but you pulled through. And Lily, his face softened, and for the first time since I woke up, I saw something other than fear in his eyes. She's beautiful, Liv. You did amazing. I squeezed his hand weakly, my body too drained to do much else. Then, as if he could read my mind, Jake's expression darkened. His grip on my hand turned protective. She's outside, he muttered, jaw clenched. It took me a second to realize who he meant. Diane. Of course she was. Jake's lips curled in disgust. She's begging to see you. To see Lily. She's trying to play the poor misunderstood mother act, saying she didn't mean any harm. His voice dropped, venomous. But she did. And she's going to pay for it. I stared at him, my exhaustion temporarily forgotten. Jake, I'm pressing charges. My breath hitched. She endangered you, he seethed. She almost killed you and our daughter over some ridiculous obsession with a wedding. I don't care if she's my mother, she's dead to me. I swallowed hard. The weight of his words settled deep in my chest. Jake had always been patient with Diane, always excused her behavior. But not this time. This time, she had crossed a line she could never take back. And something told me she was about to realize just how badly she had messed up. The weight of Jake's words settled between us like a heavy stone. Diane was dead to him. I stared at him, my body still weak, my mind trying to process everything. A part of me had always known. Diane was controlling, selfish even, but this was evil. She had locked me away like I was nothing, like my daughter's life didn't matter, all for the sake of a wedding. And now she had the nerve to be outside, begging to see us? Jake, I said, my voice hoarse. I need to see her. His entire body went rigid. Liv, no. You don't have to do this. I don't want her anywhere near you. I squeezed his hand, barely strong enough to put pressure behind it. I need to hear what she has to say. I need to understand why she thought this was okay. Jake inhaled sharply, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. He looked at me for a long moment, searching my face, before finally exhaling through his nose. Fine, he muttered, but I'm not leaving your side. A few minutes later, the hospital door creaked open. And there she was. Diane looked nothing like her usual self. The ever-perfect, always composed woman was a mess. Her eyes were bloodshot, her usually pristine hair frizzy and disheveled. The moment she saw me, she let out a sharp breath, clasping her hands together like some desperate woman seeking forgiveness. Oh, Olivia, she choked out, stepping forward. I was so worried about you, sweetheart. Thank God you're okay. I just stared at her. She had worried? Was she joking? Jake didn't say a word, but I could feel the barely contained rage radiating from him like heat off a fire. He was giving me the space to handle this, but I could tell it was taking everything in him not to throw her out of the room. I almost died, Diane, I said, my voice shaking. Lily almost died because of you. Diane flinched, shaking her head. No, that's not. I never meant for things to get that bad. She took another step forward, wringing her hands. I just needed you to wait a little while. It was Tessa's wedding and what? Jake finally snapped. His voice was deadly quiet, but there was a fury beneath it that made even me shiver. What, Mom? You thought Liv could just hold it in for an hour? You thought she was being dramatic? Diane's lips trembled. I didn't think. No, you didn't think. I cut in, my own anger bubbling up past my exhaustion. You locked me in a bathroom. You took my phone. You left me there like I was some kind of a burden. Tears spilled down her face, but I didn't feel a shred of sympathy. Not anymore. I was trying to protect Tessa's big day, she whispered. I actually laughed. A short, humorless, disbelieving laugh. You almost killed her niece over a goddamn wedding, Jake spat. What part of that do you think Tessa would be okay with? Diane looked away, silent. And that's when I realized she knew. She knew how messed up it was. She knew she had crossed a line so deep, so permanent, that there was no coming back from it. I inhaled shakily. You're not coming near Lily, I said, my voice eerily calm. You're not coming near me. I don't care that you're crying, Diane. I don't care that you're sorry now. You made your choice. And we're making ours. Diane's head snapped up. You don't mean that. Jake let out a cold laugh. Oh, we do. She looked between us, desperation creeping into her features. Jake, honey, please, no. He cut her off. His voice was final. I meant what I said. You're dead to me. Diane stumbled backward like he had physically struck her. But get out, I said. Her mouth opened, then closed. A flicker of something flashed across her face. Anger? Regret? I didn't care anymore. Without another word, she turned and walked out. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The next few days were a blur. I was discharged from the hospital with Lily, and coming home felt surreal. Jake was glued to my side, never letting me lift a finger, while Tessa and Brooke showed up almost immediately to meet their niece. Tessa held Lily like she was the most precious thing in the world. Her eyes shimmered as she looked at me. Liv, I had no idea Mom did that. If I had known... She swallowed hard, shaking her head. I would have stopped her. I can't believe she thought I'd ever be okay with that. I know, I murmured. It's not your fault. Brooke was quieter. She hadn't said much since the wedding. And when she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm so sorry, she said, eyes full of guilt. I should have helped you sooner. I squeezed her hand. You did help. You told Jake. You saved me, Brooke. Her lip trembled. I was scared of Mom. I understood that fear. We all did. But that fear had almost cost me and Lily our lives. Jake's pressing charges, I told them softly. For unlawful imprisonment, I convinced him not to go for anything more, but we have to do something. Tessa nodded. Good. Brooke hesitated, then nodded too. Jake walked in then, holding Lily against his chest. Anna and Ethan are coming by tomorrow, he said, kissing the top of my head. They can't wait to see you guys. I leaned into him, my heart swelling. This was my real family. The ones who chose to stand by me, not the woman who had tried to erase me for the sake of a party. That night, as I lay in bed with my daughter in my arms, I finally let myself breathe. Diane had spent years trying to control everyone. She thought she could manipulate us, break us down, bend us to her will. But this time, she lost. And I would never let her near my daughter again. For the first time since the nightmare at the wedding, life finally felt normal again. Jake and I settled into our new routine with Lily's sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and a love so overwhelming it made every exhausted moment worth it. Tessa, Brooke, and even Ethan had been stopping by regularly, showering Lily with love and helping out whenever they could. It felt good, like we were building something strong, something real. But Diane? She was gone, completely silent. Not that I was complaining. She hadn't called, hadn't texted, hadn't tried to contact us since that day at the hospital. If I didn't know better, I would have thought she had finally accepted what she did and decided to let us be. I should have known better, because Diane wasn't the kind of person who let things go. And a few nights later, she reminded us exactly who she was. It was just after 1 a.m. when the banging started. Loud, relentless. I bolted upright in bed, my heart pounding. The baby monitor next to me crackled softly. Lily was still sound asleep, blissfully unaware of the chaos outside. Jake was already on his feet. Stay here, he muttered, his voice tense as he grabbed his phone. I didn't argue. My whole body was rigid as I listened to the pounding on the door. Then her voice. Jake! Olivia! Open this door right now. Diane. I felt cold all over. What the hell was she doing here? Jake yanked the bedroom door open and stormed down the hall. I scrambled out of bed, pressing myself against the wall near the staircase, just close enough to hear. Mom, what the fuck are you doing? Jake's voice was pure fury. I need to see Lily, Diane sobbed. You can't keep me away from her. She's my granddaughter. No, Jake snapped. She's our daughter, and you are not welcome here. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. I raised you. I gave up everything for you. Jake let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Oh, please, Mom, don't act like you did this for anyone but yourself. Diane's voice dropped, turning desperate. Jakey, honey, please. No! Jake's voice was stone. You locked my wife in a bathroom. You endangered her and my daughter. I don't give a shit if you gave birth to me. I will never forgive you for that." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then she broke. "This isn't fair," Diane wailed. "You've always put her before me. Ever since you married her, you've abandoned me." "Abandoned?" Was she serious? Jake exhaled, slow and controlled. "Mom, go home. No! I won't leave until I see my granddaughter." At that, I stepped forward, my voice sharp. "And I won't let you near her." Diane's head snapped toward me. Her eyes were wild, her face blotchy from tears. "How dare you?" she hissed. I met her gaze, steady. "How dare I? You locked me away like I was a problem, Diane." "Like my daughter's life didn't matter. You don't get to cry about this now." She looked furious. "I was only trying to protect Tessa's day. You wouldn't understand because you're selfish." I almost laughed. "Selfish? I was having a baby, Diane. That's not something you can just pause for someone else's wedding." Jake had heard enough. He pulled out his phone and held it up. "If you don't leave in the next 10 seconds, I'm calling the cops." That made her hesitate. Her lips trembled. "You'd really do that to your own mother?" Jake's jaw clenched. "Watch me." Something shifted in Diane's expression then. Her mask cracked, and for the first time, she didn't look heartbroken, she looked furious. Her eyes darkened, her face twisting into something bitter and ugly. "You'll regret this," she whispered. Jake's grip tightened on his phone. "Get off my property." Diane stood there for a moment longer, her nails digging into her palms. Then, with one last glare, she spun on her heel and stormed off into the night. We locked the door behind her, and just like that, she was gone. But something in my gut told me this wasn't over. The next morning, Jake and I sat in the kitchen, our coffee untouched between us. Neither of us had slept. "She's losing it," I muttered, rubbing my temples. Jake was silent for a moment. Then, with a sigh, he reached for his phone. "We're getting a restraining order." I exhaled slowly. "Are we really doing this?" "Yes." His voice was firm. "She's not going to stop, Liv. And I'm not taking any chances." I nodded. "Okay." Jake made the call. And just like that, we took the first step in officially cutting Diane out of our lives. A week passed. The restraining order went through without a hitch, and Diane was served the papers. She didn't reach out, didn't call nothing. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, I got the text. It was long, rambling, and the further I read, the sicker I felt. Diane started off by saying she was hurt that we were doing this to her, that she had sacrificed her entire life for her children, and this was how we repaid her. But the more I read, the worse it got. She admitted something that made my blood run cold. She said she had always hoped Tessa would be mad at me for getting pregnant so close to the wedding, that she had wanted drama, wanted jealousy, wanted the family to turn against me. And when that didn't happen, she forced it. She locked me away, not just for Tessa's sake, but because she didn't want me and Lily to be the new center of attention. She wanted to be the one everyone revolved around. My stomach churned. I barely registered Jake's voice until I felt his hand on my shoulder. "Liv?" I blinked, staring at the screen. "She's insane." Jake took the phone from my hands and skimmed the text. His face darkened. "We're blocking her." I nodded numbly. He scrolled to the bottom, blocked her number, then sent screenshots of the message to Tessa and Brooke. And just like that, Diane was gone. For real this time. I exhaled shakily, looking down at Lily, who was curled up in my arms, peaceful and safe. She would never know Diane. And that was the best decision we had ever made. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. And for the first time in forever, Diane was gone. No calls, no surprise visits, no more texts filled with fake apologies and backhanded guilt trips. Jake and I were finally free. I should have felt relieved. And in a way, I did. I could finally breathe without waiting for the next disaster. I could hold Lily in my arms and know she was safe. But in the back of my mind, a small, nagging voice wouldn't shut up. Diane wasn't the type to just give up. And I had a feeling this silence wouldn't last forever. I was right. It happened on a quiet Saturday morning. Jake had just stepped out to grab coffee, and I was sitting in the nursery, rocking Lily in my arms, soaking in the peaceful moment. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. My heart clenched. I hesitated for half a second before answering. Hello? Silence. Then, I hope you're happy. I stiffened. I'd recognize that voice anywhere. Diane. I gritted my teeth, keeping my voice low and even. What do you want? She let out a bitter laugh. What do I want? Oh, Olivia, sweetheart, I wanted my family. I wanted my son to love me. I wanted to be a part of my granddaughter's life. But you took all of that away from me, didn't you? I squeezed my eyes shut, taking a slow breath. You did that to yourself, Diane, did I? Her voice dripped with venom. Or did you just want me gone from the very beginning? I almost laughed. Oh, come on, you locked me in a bathroom. You risked my daughter's life. And now you want to act like I'm the villain? She ignored me. Jake will regret this. One day he'll realize what he's lost. And when that happens, don't come crawling back to me. I gripped the phone tighter. You don't get it, do you? There's nothing to come back to. Jake made his choice. We made our choice. You lost. You did this to yourself. Diane inhaled sharply, like my words had actually hurt her. For the first time, she didn't fire back, didn't scream, didn't demand. She just breathed, and then she hung up. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. It was over. For real this time. When Jake got home, I told him everything. He listened in silence, his grip on his coffee tightening with every word. When I was done, he exhaled through his nose and set his cup down with a thud. That's it, he muttered. I frowned. What do you mean? He pulled out his phone. I'm changing her numbers. Today. I blinked. Jake, she called from an unknown number. She'll find ways. Then we make it harder, he said firmly. She's not getting anywhere near you or Lily. Not now. Not ever. I studied his face, searching for doubt. There was none. Jake had always been patient with Diane, always given her the benefit of the doubt. But this was different. This was final, and I wasn't about to argue with that. The next few weeks were blissfully uneventful. Jake and I changed our numbers, locked down our social media, and made it impossible for Diane to contact us. The restraining order kept her from showing up at our house, and even if she wanted to, she had no way of reaching us. She was truly out of our lives. And you know what? It felt good. I had spent years feeling like I had to walk on eggshells around Diane. I had let her comments slide, let her behavior slide, let her manipulations slide because I wanted to keep the peace. But now, there was no more peace to keep, and I was okay with that. One night, Tessa and Ethan came over for dinner. Lily was dozing in her bassinet, and for the first time in forever, we were just relaxing, laughing, eating good food without some looming disaster hanging over our heads. Then, Tessa set her fork down, her expression turning serious. I have something to tell you guys, she said. I exchanged a glance with Jake. What's up? Tessa hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, she said, Mom's leaving town. Jake sat up straighter. What? She's selling the house, Tessa continued. Packing up. Says she needs a fresh start. I blinked. Diane was leaving? Jake rubbed a hand over his face. So, what? She's just gonna start over somewhere else and pretend none of this ever happened? Tessa shrugged. Probably. I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. Good. Tessa studied me. You really don't care, do you? I met her gaze, my voice steady. No, I don't. Because I didn't. Not anymore. For years, Diane had controlled everything. She had dictated how her children lived their lives. She had demanded loyalty, expected obedience, manipulated anyone who dared step out of line. But now, she was running. And honestly, that felt like justice. After dinner, when everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, I stood in the nursery, watching Lily sleep. She was so tiny, so innocent. And she would never know the kind of pain Diane had inflicted on this family. She would grow up loved, protected, free from manipulation and guilt and control. And that was all that mattered. Jake stepped up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. She's perfect, he murmured. I smiled, leaning into him. Yeah, she really is. We stood there in silence for a while, just watching our daughter breathe. Then Jake pressed a kiss to my temple. We did the right thing, Liv. I nodded. I know. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt at peace. Diane was gone. For the first time since I married into this family, she had no power over us, no control, no way to manipulate or guilt trip or force her way back into our lives. She had packed up her things, sold her house, and disappeared without so much as a goodbye. And I thought that would be the end of it. I wanted that to be the end of it. But people like Diane don't just walk away without trying to take one final piece of you with them. And I learned that the hard way. It was a normal evening. Jake was in the living room, half asleep on the couch with the TV playing some crime documentary in the background. Lily was curled up in her bassinet, her tiny hand gripping my finger as I rocked her gently. Everything was peaceful, warm, safe. Then my phone buzzed. Not a call, not a text, an email. From an address I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was spam, but then my eyes landed on the subject line. My stomach twisted. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. I had no reason to open it. Nothing she could say would change what had already happened. But against my better judgment, I clicked. The email wasn't long. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a desperate plea for forgiveness. It was a warning. You think you've won. But people like me never really lose. You may have taken my son, my family, my life, but you will always be looking over your shoulder, Olivia. Because deep down, you know that no matter how far you run, no matter how many walls you build, you will always feel my presence. My absence will haunt you more than my presence ever did. One day, you'll regret this. And when that day comes, you'll remember that you did this to yourself. I stared at the words, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't know what unsettled me more, the fact that she had actually taken the time to write this, or the fact that she truly believed she still had any power over us. Because she didn't. Not anymore. I took a slow, steady breath, my grip on my phone tightening. Then, without a second thought, I deleted the email, blocked the address. And just like that, she was gone. For real this time. I never told Jake about the email. Not because I was scared. Not because I was hiding anything. But because I refused to give Diane that kind of control over my life. Her words meant nothing. She wanted to haunt me? Fine. Let her scream into the void all she wanted. Let her twist herself in knots, hoping that one day I'd regret cutting her out. Because the truth? I never would. Not in this lifetime. Not in the next. She was gone, and I would never let her back in. The days turned into weeks. The weeks turned into months. And little by little, life moved forward. Jake and I adjusted to parenthood, long nights, early mornings, endless cuddles with Lily that made every sleepless hour worth it. Tessa and Brooke remained constants in our lives, showering Lily with love, making sure we never felt alone in this new chapter. Diane became nothing more than a name we used to know, a ghost of a past we had no interest in revisiting, and eventually, even the thought of her stopped feeling like a weight pressing on my chest. She was gone, and we were finally, truly free. One night, I stood by Lily's crib watching her sleep. Her tiny chest rose and fell, her lips slightly parted as she dreamed. One of her hands curled up against her cheek. She was so small, so innocent, and yet she had survived so much before she even took her first breath. A lump formed in my throat as I reached out, running my fingers gently over the soft curls on her head. "You're never going to know her," I whispered. And that's a good thing, because Lily would never grow up fearing Diane's approval. She would never have to navigate the minefield of manipulation and control that Jake and his sisters had endured for years. She would never be used as a pawn in someone else's twisted game. She would only know love, only know safety, only know the kind of family that chooses each other, not the kind that demands blind loyalty at any cost. And I would make damn sure of that. Jake stepped into the room then, wrapping his arms around me from behind. He rested his chin on my shoulder, his voice soft. "She's perfect," he murmured. I smiled. "Yeah, she really is." We stood there for a long time, just watching our daughter breathe. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt at peace, because the past was behind us, and the future, it was ours. Story 2, I liquidated my profitable business and witnessed my family beg for assistance after they lost everything because they picked my cheating ex over me. As my entire life fell apart, I gazed at the text message on my phone and read it 10 times. I'm sorry, sweetie. Dinner cannot be made tonight. Meeting with clients in an emergency. The Instagram picture that was uploaded 2 minutes earlier of Miles at a rooftop bar with his arm around a blonde who was definitely not me was the issue, not the message. I'm Tabitha, and I started my internet business from the ground up while organizing my wedding to a man who, reportedly, couldn't even be bothered to think up a good lie. I didn't miss the irony. While he spent his time expanding his list of affairs, I had spent 3 years building my firm into a 7-figure enterprise. After getting my keys, I took a car to his residence. My hands on the driving wheel were trembling. The doorman didn't need to call to allow me up because he knew me well. After giving a grandiose speech about our future together, I entered using the key that Miles had given me. Sweetheart, I've returned home, I yelled, my tone brimming with irony. Everything the first needed to know was revealed to me by the fumbling noises coming from the bedroom. Panicked, Miles came out without a shirt. What are you, Tabitha? I assumed you were at work. It's funny. I assumed you were at a meeting with a client. I showed him the Instagram post on my phone. Unless your customers like tiny black dresses and rooftop bars. Behind him, the blonde emerged, holding her garment close to her breast. You claim to be unmarried. He isn't. As I removed my engagement ring off my finger, I spoke. However, I'm going to take care of it for him. The ring clattered to the floor after bouncing off his chest. Please, baby, grin. Approach me. It isn't what you believe. Let me clarify. For someone who still thinks your falsehoods are true, save it. He took hold of my arm as I turned to go. You're exaggerating. We can resolve this. I pulled my arm away. Keep your hands off me. We're finished. On the way home, my phone kept buzzing. Miles called and my mother texted. Even my brother Adrian's texts. I chose to ignore them all until I got into my driveway, at which point my whole family reportedly decided to intervene. What have you done, Tabitha? As I stepped out of the car, my mother hurried ahead. In tears, Miles called us. He did, of course. My father obstructed my attempt to push past her. You're being hurried, princess, he remarked. Every couple has challenges. Miles is a kind guy, a decent dude. I gave a sour laugh. Today, I discovered him cheating on his father at his apartment. Men are fallible. Elizabeth, my sister-in-law, added her voice. One transgression is not enough to ruin a relationship. I examined each one. Adrian's critical gaze, Elizabeth's smug look, my mother's wringing hands, and my father's disapproving grimace. I was supposed to have these individuals on my side. I've been deceived by him for months, probably longer, I responded. And all of you are standing here supporting him. He belongs to this family. Adrian claimed to have made significant investments in his father's company throughout the years. It was there, the true purpose for their presence. It had nothing to do with my enjoyment. It has to do with money. For years, my prosperous firm had supported my family's lifestyle, and Miles had infiltrated my father's business. This is unbelievable. I gave a headshake. The fact that my fiancé cheated on me is less important to my own family than their monetary accounts. You're acting like a child now. My mom lost her temper. Miles most likely felt motivated for the same reason. You dare not complete that statement. I spoke in a chilly tone. Tabitha, you dare not hold me responsible for his decisions. My father's voice had the condescending tone I had come to despise. Sleep on it, please. You'll see things more clearly tomorrow. Oh, everything is so plain to me now. I stepped to my front door, past them. I understand exactly what I mean to each and every one of you. Avoid being theatrical. I was named after by Elizabeth. You can't keep a man because of this. You're too sentimental and preoccupied with your small internet store. Through the glass, I interrupted her as I slammed the door. They were presumably planning their next move to get me to line up, as I saw them hunched together. However, something changed within me as I stood there. Although the pain persisted, it was now solidifying into resolve. They believed my company to be a little internet store. They believed that Miles needed their blessing and I needed his. All right, let them believe that I opened my laptop after walking to my home office. Time for some phone calls. I'll start with my business broker. They could have Miles if they really wanted him. But in the process, they were going to find out just what they were losing. My business is being sold by you. During the Zoom call, broker Kate almost choked on her coffee. Tabitha, next year your company's sales is expected to quadruple. Why would you? I require a new beginning. As I watched the numbers go across my computer, I murmured, I also need it to be silent. How quickly can you use these financials to make this work? Perhaps a week or two. Are you certain about this, though? My phone lighted up with a text from Miles. Your mom is quite anxious. Give up your stubbornness and return home fully. Yes, I said, terminating the communication without answering. I also want you to give female customers priority, Kate. Negotiations, paperwork, and missed calls filled the following 2 weeks. I packed my life into boxes and dealt with my family's increasingly forceful attempts to make things right, not realizing that I had already signed the sale papers or booked a Boston flat. You can't stay away from us forever. One morning, Adrian cornered me outside my house. Mom is seldom sleeping. Dad has extremely high blood pressure. It's funny because when Miles was cheating on me, no one seemed to care about my welfare. He was wrong. What about Dad's company? In order to arrange that merger with Miles, he was banking on your engagement. His company. I gave a sour laugh. That's how much you all valued my connection. A commercial transaction. Avoid being naive. Everything is interconnected. Your tiny internet store. Dad was able to stay afloat throughout COVID because to my little business, which also paid for your wife's automobile and Mom's remodeling. I gave a headshake. What do you know? You're correct. It's time to unplug since everything is connected. The following day, the moving company showed up. I got it just right. When the final box was loaded, everyone would be at work or on errands. Elizabeth's vehicle screamed into my parking lot. What are you doing? She leaped out. The phone is already recording. Stop this insanity immediately, Tabitha, or what? You are going to put it online. Prove to everyone my instability. Together with the movers, I signed the last document. Proceed. It will undoubtedly be used extensively. Your mom will be heartbroken. Do you want it that way? When my fiancé cheated, I sought support. I desired a family that placed a higher emphasis on me than their socioeconomic standing. I gave her an envelope. When they go home, give them this. What is it? Letter. Goodbye. Additionally, don't waste your time attempting to follow me. I'll be gone by the time you read it. With every mile, the 8-hour journey to Boston was a liberating experience. I felt as though my shoulders were lighter. My phone kept buzzing until I eventually stopped at a rest area to check the messages. How did you sell your company without telling us, Mom? How about our monthly plans? Dad, you're being totally careless. Give me a call now. You're ruining this family, Adrian. You're making a big mistake, Miles. Let's discuss this. After turning off my phone, I went for a walk to grab coffee. As she gave me my drink, the barista grinned. A difficult day? In fact, I returned the smile. I haven't had a better day in years. The view of the Boston skyline made up for the fact that my new flat was smaller than my previous one. I left the remainder in cartons and simply unloaded what I needed. I had enough money from the sale of my company to start over and invest in other women who shared my aspirations of having greater goals. Others attempted to insert them. I sipped a bottle of wine on my deserted balcony that evening and at last switched my phone back on. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. I noticed one from Elizabeth. You believe your escape is so smart? Guess what, though? You are needed by your beloved family, and you left them behind. Your father is reorganizing his company with Miles's assistance. Something you obviously didn't want to do. When you're alone, yourself and your pride is the only thing keeping you warm, you'll regret this. I replied with a snapshot of my bank balance, showing the money from the sale of my business. Then, one by one, I blocked each person's number after blocking hers. I cut the connections that had held me to a life that had never truly been mine. I met with 3 female founders tomorrow who required funding and guidance. Like me before my family attempted to quell my aspirations, they had dreams in their hearts and fire in their eyes. Let Elizabeth take care of my family's warmth. I needed to kindle additional fires. Are you telling me that you changed towns and sold a 7-figure business to get even with your family? Caden studied me over her coffee cup while leaning back in her chair. The early sun glinted off the sea as we sat in her modern office with a view of Boston Harbor. I made the correction to set myself free, not to be spiteful. There is a distinction. She tapped her desk with her fingers. And now you want to put money into firms run by women who have never invested before? I started my business from nothing. I am aware of the requirements. Constructing and funding a distinct beast. Tabitha. Walking to her whiteboard, Caden stood up. However, I enjoy your fire. I'll show you something. She discussed risk assessment, investing methods, and the value of due diligence over the following hour. I hastily took notes, hardly able to keep up with her knowledge of rapid fire. Why are you assisting me? When she eventually paused, I inquired. Because I was you 6 years ago, we only recently met through a LinkedIn link. Except for the spectacular escape. She grinned. I'd want to see some actual potential now. In an hour, I'll be meeting with a founder. Join me. Simon, a talented lady with a groundbreaking software platform for healthcare accessibility, ended up being the founder. Even if her presentation was perfect, what really grabbed my attention was the fire in her eyes. Simon pulled up her prototype and stated that the large investors don't understand. They want me to make it more marketable and wash it down. However, that negates the entire goal. As she went over her financials with us, I could hear the anger in her voice and urged, "Show me the numbers." The voicemail alert made my stomach knot, yet my phone buzzed a banned number. It's dad stuff, Tabitha. It's not going well. We must speak, please. Without hearing any more, I erased it. Caden was observing me intently while Simon continued to speak. Is everything all right? After Simon went, she inquired, Family matters. It isn't anything. It doesn't sound insignificant. She sat down at her desk. Look, I'm not into heart-to-hearts, but you need to be focused and logical if you want to thrive here. I'm paying attention. Simon's endeavor. That's precisely what I want to put money into. Good intuition, she has the capacity. However, Caden hesitated. Whatever is going on at home has to be dealt with. If you don't, it will follow you. I sat in my new apartment later that night and stared at my phone. My father missed 3 more calls. Adrian gave it 2. At last, I selected the latest voicemail. You must contact your father, sis. The merger failed. He pulled out after you were gone, Miles. Dad's business is having problems. Like real trouble. Please give us a call. I went to my window downstairs and poured myself a glass of wine. The lights in Boston glowed, a constellation of potentialities. Once more, my phone buzzed. It was Caden this time. Received your investor certification's last set of documents. Simon is also requesting that you meet with him again. I instantly typed back. Of course. And thanks, Caden. Don't thank me just yet. Wait till a poor wager costs you your first $100,000. I chuckled, but I was interrupted by another call, this one from Elizabeth. What? I gave a harsh response. You're still alive then? She gave a smirk. Living in Boston as your family disintegrates must be lovely. Elizabeth, what do you want? The business that your father owns is failing. Adrian's employment is at risk. You don't care though, do you? Too busy using your blood money to play big shot investor. Blood money? Do you mean the money I made starting my own business? The one you all wrote off as a small internet store. What do you know? When everything blows up in your face, you deserve to be left alone. I blocked another number and hung up. I opened my laptop with trembling hands and retrieved the financial records of my father's business. After all, these were public records. My eyes widened at what I saw. Elizabeth was telling the truth. The figures weren't good. Simon texted me and my phone lighted up. Hello, in response to your inquiries, I revised a few forecasts. Tomorrow, coffee. After reading the message, I glanced at the figures for my father's business. It was a sharp contrast. One stood for my history, with all of its responsibilities and shame. The other was my future, which was full with possibilities and meaning. I typed Simon back. Coffee sounds ideal. I want to talk about some of my ideas. Give them the impression that I was fleeing. The fact was, I was sprinting toward anything for the first time in my life. Something that was all mine. I'm giving your business a $500,000 investment. Across the coffee shop table, I informed Simon. Her gaze expanded. The coffee cup froze in the middle of her mouth. Are you serious? Her hands trembled as she put down the cup. However, you also mentioned that you needed more time. I've had enough. Your prototype is functional. Your market research is sound. And to be honest, I'm sick of seeing talented women passed over by conventional investors, Adrian called as we were negotiating conditions. and my phone rang. When I said no, he phoned me back right away. Simon whispered softly, "You ought to get that. If you neglect family matters, they tend to fester." Bracing myself, I went outdoors. "Adrian, what is it?" "Dad is hospitalized." His voice broke, heart attack brought on by stress. "Little. However, he is requesting you." The earth swayed a little. "Is he all right?" "For the time being. However, the business is failing. Next week, we will be laying off employees." "Do you recall Tommy from accounting?" 20 years of employment with the organization, 3 college-age children. "He'll leave first." He delivered the guilt punch just as he had planned. "Adrian, that's not my fault." "No. The day after you departed, Miles withdrew his investment, claimed that a household that produced such a self-centered individual was untrustworthy. The bank is now requesting loans and stopping." I touch my temple with my fingertips. "Simply stop. I can't be held responsible for Miles's choices, can I? You are aware of the cost to us of your small, dramatic departure. But your self-interest was your sole concern." Through the glass, I observed Simon going over the investment documents with such optimism in her eyes. "I must leave." "You do, of course. Get out. You're skilled at it. Go back inside." Simon raised his head worriedly. "Is everything all right?" "My dad is in the hospital right now." I took a deep seat, mild heart attack. "God, please. I'm so sorry. This may wait till later." "No." I took my pen out. "Now let's get this done. I have faith in you and your endeavor. Family conflict is keeping that the same." It became official when we signed the documents. My mother texted me, and my phone buzzed as Simon bid me farewell. "In the hospital today, your father inquired about you. Do you recall scraping your knee as a child? You were carried home by him. He needs you now. Where are you two?" I ended the message, hands shaking. There was another text, this one from Elizabeth. "I hope you feel good about yourself. Next week, 30 employees of your father's business will be let go, mortgages and families with kids. All because you were unable to act like an adult while dealing with a single little relationship issue." Caden phoned just before I blocked her. "Hello, I heard you and Simon seal the deal. Are you up for a party?" "I am unable to. Emergency in the family." Her voice caught up, softening the past. "My dad is in the hospital right now, heart attack. Additionally, it seems that I am to blame for the devastation of his business and the life of 30 families." "That math is interesting." Caden hesitated. "Do you need some guidance? Would you please?" "Visit him." "What?" "Visit your dad. Not for him, for you. Take them all on. Say what has to be said. Then go. If not, they will continue to exist in your mind. No rent." I checked my calendar. Simon had completed his investment. My other appointments could wait. "You're correct." I inhaled deeply. "I'll make travel arrangements." "Excellent. Additionally, Tabitha, keep in mind that you are no longer that terrified little girl. You are now an investor. Act as though you do." I contacted my brother after scheduling a flight for the next morning. "Tomorrow, I'll be there," I said after he responded. "Let me clarify, though. I'm not coming to improve the business. I'm coming to visit Dad." "Obviously not," he scoffed. "Why would you lend a hand to your family, the folks who brought me up?" "Do you mean the family that didn't think much of me? They supported my unfaithful fiancé, that household. He erred once, and I made the decision to value who I am. Take care of it." After hanging up, I turned on my laptop, bringing up the financials of my father's business once more. Even worse than previously were the stats. There was a part of me that wanted to jump in, make things right, and be the nice daughter they desired. However, I recalled my reasons for leaving when I reviewed the investment agreement with Simon. They had not just taken Miles's side, they made an effort to make me smaller in order to meet their standards. And nothing would change if I saved them today. It was the final buzzing of my phone. Simon sent a message. "I just shared the investment with my staff. They are shedding tears of joy. Today, Tabitha, you have transformed lives. We appreciate your faith in us." I grinned. I booked my room and took a screenshot of the message. I would confront my past tomorrow. However, I would like to celebrate improving lives tonight. Not out of duty, but out of choice. Sitting in Caden's office 3 months after my short, stressful hospital stay with my father, I read Simon's most recent progress report. The figures were astounding. She has surpassed expectations by 40. Caden gave a whistle. Your initial investments appear to be a huge success. As I scrolled through the statistics, I declared that the healthcare sector was prepared for change. Simon is also a genius. Sure, but let's discuss your other victories. A spreadsheet was displayed by Caden. 3 more profitable ventures in businesses run by women. Kid, you have good instincts. It buzzed on my phone. Adrian sent another email. Ever since my father's hospitalization, I had been receiving them every week. In different language, the same message of guilt. I didn't read it before deleting it. Leaning forward, Caden talked about intuition. Tonight, there's a seminar for investors downtown. Simon is giving a presentation. You ought to attend. Boston's tech elite crowded the meeting room. Simon commanded the stage as she boldly demonstrated the impressive expansion of her business. I was standing in the back, feeling proud, when I was frozen in place by a voice I recognized. I turned slowly, Tabitha. Miles appeared just as he had, standing there in a pricey suit. The day I discovered he was unfaithful. How come you're in Boston? Despite my racing heart, I spoke steadily. Consulting. After looking around, he took a step forward. Through my family, I've been attempting to get in touch with you. Elegant. They are concerned for you. All of us are. He spoke more softly. Adrian, your father's business is struggling to stay afloat. Your mother had to revoke her membership at the country club as well. The final part nearly made me giggle, and you might also assist. Now you have the materials. I was informed about your investments. Hold on. I extended my hand. Are you here for that reason? To persuade me to save them? I have a job here, but observing you. He made a move toward my arm. Tab, I miss you. Everyone does. It's commendable what you're doing. However, the tension was broken by Tabitha Simon's voice. With her iPad in hand, she hurried over. The investors from Singapore would want to meet. I apologize. Am I disturbing you? Absolutely not. I took a step back from Miles. This is my ex-fiancé, Simon. He had just departed. Miles, in fact, fixed his tie. Tell me about your business, please. There could be room for cooperation with my company? Your company? I chuckled icily. The same corporation that left my father's business as soon as circumstances became difficult. That company? Simon's recognition caused his eyes to widen. You're that Miles, I see. We apologize, but investors in fair weather are not of interest to us. The Singapore squad is waiting, Tabitha. Miles called out. Your family needs you, Tab, as we were leaving. For what length of time will you punish them? I went around again. No one is being punished by me. I'm making investments in folks who share my belief in their own abilities. My family never done it. Elizabeth texted me later that evening when Simon and her crew were enjoying celebration drinks. Miles Saul. He shared your small success story with us today. It must be pleasant to be an investor while your family is struggling. Mom is now selling her jewels. Simon snorted as I showed him the paragraph. Whoa! Don't they know how to put up a good front? To them, money is love. I let out a sigh. They are therefore unable to comprehend my refusal to assist. However, you are assisting. Simon celebrated her team's good presentation by waving at them. Not them, though. This time my phone buzzed once more. I heard Miles arrived. Are you all right? The smart ladies I had invested in at Simon, whose business was transforming lives in the future, caught my attention as I glanced around the bar. I was emancipating myself from guilt and manipulation. Never better, I said. Good, since you'll see the tech news tomorrow. Our original investment was double by Simon's company's recent valuation. Kid, you're not just getting by anymore. You're doing well. I gave Simon my glass. To have faith in ourselves. To have faith in ourselves. She repeated, then smiled and continued to show them all incorrect. Just like clockwork, my mother texted me again. You're doing well, Miles remarks. Why do you refuse to assist your family? How could we have earned this? After blocking her number, I lifted my glass once again and decided to pick our own family. None of the women surrounding me realized the entire significance of the toast. Yet, they all cheered. However, I saw them celebrate their accomplishment, which I had contributed to. I came to a startling realization. My independence had always been viewed by my family as a punishment. The fact that it was truly liberty would never occur to them. For all the women I could support along the journey, not just myself. As I exited the elevator, my assistant alerted me that he was waiting in your office. He kept on waiting even after I informed him that you were in meetings all day. I didn't have to inquire as to who. I could see Miles browsing through his phone while seated in one of my visiting seats via the glass walls. He was here, unannounced and unwanted, 2 weeks after our conference meeting. He's been here for how long? 3 hours? Do I need to contact security? I put my jacket straight. No, I'll take care of this. I walked into Miles's well-known cologne, and he was there, slapping me with memories. And lastly, your helper is quite protective. She does her work well. I didn't offer him a seat. Instead, I sat behind my desk. You're here, but why? You are in the news a lot. He displayed an article about Simmons Company, rising star investor, and supporter of female businesses on his phone. What a reputation you're reestablishing. You're here, but why? He took an unwelcome seat. Yesterday, your father's business declared bankruptcy. I am aware that it made headlines. Adrian's home was lost. Elizabeth, he also took up residence with your parents. Your mom is a complete wreck. He bent over. You may save them all with a single investment. As if you pulled your investment and preserved them. It was business. It's family. It's funny how those boundaries get hazy when you want them to. I opened my calendar. In 10 minutes, I have a meeting. God forbid, Tabitha. His hand smashed into my desk. Quit being so aloof. You are loved by these folks. Do you love me? I chuckled. I was able to help them, and they enjoyed it. There is a distinction. Everybody made errors. Above everything, myself. His tone grew softer. I've evolved. Hearing about your achievement and seeing you at the conference made me understand what I had thrown away, I'll guess. Your consultancy practice is struggling. He winced. It's not fair. Is it that you only appear when you're in need of something? I got to my feet. No, is the response. I refuse to put money into Dad's business. I'm not going to save Adrian. Furthermore, I will not give you another chance. Your mom was correct. He spat while standing as well. You've become a hard person. Chilled? No, I've become resilient. There is a distinction. Simon paused at the image as he entered my office via the open door. I apologize. I arrive at our meeting early. Perfect timing, I remarked. Miles had just walked out. He walked to the door and said, This isn't over. It is, in fact. I hit the intercom button. Please take Mr. Turner out and change his status to limited access. Security. Simon whistled softly after he had gone. Whoa. Are you all right? Better than mediocre. I took a seat again. Present the updated prototype to me. It buzzed on my phone. Are you pleased now, Adrian? Officially, Dad's business is dead. He lost 30 years of his life. I hope your retaliation was worthwhile. Next. Elizabeth. Your mom is crying uncontrollably. Well done. Your family has been ruined by you. At last. My dad. When my own daughter had the opportunity to help, I never imagined that she would choose to watch her family suffer. I no longer recognize you. I read the texts to Simon. They don't understand, do they? No, they don't. I put my phone aside. Isn't this what they believe to be retaliation? Just a bit. Perhaps first, but now I gave it some thinking. The focus now is on creating something significant. In relation to it, please display those figures once more. We went right to work, but later that evening when I was by myself in my apartment, I opened an old picture on my phone. Last Christmas, my family. My small internet store paid for all the smiles and high-end clothing. With his arm wrapped over me, Miles was in the middle, most likely texting his girlfriend beneath the table. My phone rang. Caden, I've heard you had a fascinating guest today. In our world, news spreads quickly. Lightning fast. Are you all right? I took another look at the picture before deleting it. What do you know? Yes, I am. Excellent. Since I recently learned of a bright woman who runs a business on green energy. Are you interested? I got my laptop open. Give me additional details. Supper. On Newberry, that new place. Excellent. I took one final look at my phone. I have 3 more unread mails from my relatives. I switched it off after that. Let them believe that I was being aloof. Let them hold me responsible for their decisions. Tomorrow, I had meetings with ladies who were creating the future rather than holding on to a past that never existed. I said, "Hey, Caden," and hung up. "I appreciate all you've done. Now don't be too kind to me," she chuckled. "Don't waste that energy on the pitch meetings tomorrow." With lights glimmering with promise, I gazed out into the Boston skyline. Somewhere, another lady was struggling against others who told her to stay in her lane, think smaller and be less. She was dreaming big. I was just getting started and had finished keeping in my lane. As we arrived to my parents' house, Caden exclaimed, "They're all inside." Miles's office visit had been 6 months ago, and suddenly I found myself back where it all started. "Are you certain about this?" I looked at the familiar front door and said, "No. However, I should have gotten the email sooner." My mother announced in a group chat 3 days ago that they were selling the house, the family home where I grew up, and it was reduced to a real estate listing. I was about to knock when the door opened. My mother appeared older than I recalled as she stood there. "Basics from department stores took the role of designer clothing," she said bluntly. "You arrived." "You wouldn't, in my opinion. Let's finish this up." When I walked in, Caden, who was standing just behind the living room, became silent. I saw Adrian and Elizabeth sitting on the couch, my father in his recliner, looking weak, and, to my surprise, Miles. "Why is he in this place?" I insisted. "I invited him. We need to talk about this family's future," my father stated. "Nothing needs to be discussed." "I'm still standing. I received the email. Are you going to sell the house?" "I came to get what was left of me." "Is that everything you own?" Elizabeth laughed. "But what about everything you stole from us? Our reputation, our steadiness? You get a free pass." Caden slid right in. Many people turned as if they were seeing her for the first time. "And who are you?" My mom requested Tabitha's friend and mentor, Caden Brewer. Additionally, the individual who assisted her in transforming her retaliation into a multi-million-dollar investing portfolio. The million-dollar smile straightened. The news reports made no mention of it. "Give up." I extended my hand. "I'm not here to talk about money." "So why have you come here?" Adrian saw us pack up our life and gloated. "Despite everything, I'm here." It was also my home. Was it? When my daughter refused to leave her family, my father's voice broke. My unfaithful fiancé wouldn't have been picked over me by the parent I loved. Like smoke, the words lingered in the air. My mother argued that we didn't pick him. Stability was our choice. No, I made the correction. Money was your choice, my funds. And you demonstrated just how conditional your love was when I stopped giving it to you. It's unfair. Miles got going. You are not allowed to discuss fairness. Caden took a step forward. After manipulating her family and cheating on her, you attempted to flee after learning of her accomplishment. Our hardship was the foundation of our success. Elizabeth spit. Her talent was the foundation of her success. Caden shot back. Until you required it, you all disregarded and denigrated the same gift. My dad had trouble. Everything was being sold by his feet. The vehicles, the home, and the move to a little apartment. Did you wish for that? To witness our humility. My family was what I want, to appreciate me for who I am rather than what I might provide. I inhaled deeply. But I'm not here for that. I took one envelope out and set it down on the coffee table. What is this? Adrian grabbed it, a reminder of reality. A thorough accounting of every dollar I have donated to this family over the years is included, along with records of its expenditures. I saw the whiteness on their faces. I had everything examined by a forensic accountant. You looked into us? My mom's voice trembled. I had to comprehend. And I do now. I took a step back. I was never as successful as you saw me. I was viewed by you as an ATM. You still don't feel bad about how you treated me. You apologize for losing my money. That is untrue. My dad made a feeble protest. Really? I pointed toward Miles. So why has he come here? Because I'm willing to wager that it's not for moral reasons. Everything was reinforced by the quiet. I'm finished. Silently, I said. Don't leave the home. Make a sale, in any case. But you won't see me again after this. Without you, I've created something lovely. And I won't allow you to destroy it. Please, Tabitha. My mom came forward. This is something we can resolve. No, Mother. You still don't comprehend what has to be fixed, thus we can't. I started to walk away, but Adrian stopped me. That's it then? You choose strangers above your relatives? I'm making my own decision. At last, I stepped over him. Farewell. The June air felt fresh outside. New. Caden gave me a shoulder squeeze. Are you all right? Yes, in fact. I took one final glance back at the home. The truth has to be known to them. Not for them. For me, it buzzed on my phone. Simon. An urgent meeting. Significant news. You see? Caden smiled. Life continues. Additionally, yours is going really well. We left the house, the memories, and the family who couldn't love me unconditionally behind as we climbed into the automobile. Boston, my chosen family, was ahead, and a future that I had created for myself. It was no longer retaliation. It was liberty. I now have the distinction of presenting our award for Entrepreneur of the Year. I adjusted the microphone and looked across the packed ballroom to find someone who demonstrated how vision and willpower can make a big difference. Come on up here, Simon Stone. Behind her, Simon walked to the stage to the thunderous cheers. The impact of her healthcare platform was shown on a screen. Millions of people serviced. Barriers are broken. Lives are saved. Simon took the prize and said, "Before I accept this, I must give thanks to the one who had faith in me while others had not." Tabitha did more than simply make investments. She put her confidence in it. Take a look at what that faith created. The audience applauded more. I got the thumbs up from Caden. 5 other women whose businesses I had assisted in starting were seated next to her. Instead of duty and shame, my new family was founded on hopes and trust. A news alert on my father's former business buzzed on my phone. After being sold, the building was converted into a business incubator. The irony made me grin. Following the ceremony, guests interacted as workers cleaned dishes. Elizabeth showed up at my table. She had changed appearance. Somehow, humbler. Awkwardly, she said, "Nice speech. You look nice. Regards." I pointed to a vacant chair. "Take a seat." She sat and fidgeted with her handbag. Adrian found employment. It's a start, nothing spectacular. The parents are becoming comfortable in their new abode. Well done. They are missing you. She looked directly into my eyes. Everyone does. Elizabeth, no. Let me be done. She displayed a website to me on her phone. I launched a little company, Crafts on the Internet. Not quite as ambitious as your endeavors, but after witnessing your success, I knew I could give it a shot. I looked at her face, looking for deception, but all I saw was genuineness. That's fantastic, I answered cautiously. Really? She continued hastily. I'm not here to ask for money. I only wanted you to know that you were correct in every way. We treated you like a bank rather than a human being, taking you for granted. I apologize. Simon ran over Tabitha before I could answer. The investors from Singapore wish to grow. I apologize. No, remain. Elizabeth got to her feet. I should leave. Thank you for listening. Simon arched an eyebrow as she left. Drama in the family. More like the growth of a family. I looked over at her. Tell me about Singapore now. Caden insisted on having one final toast at our favorite pub as the evening came to an end. She passed a document across the table as we took our customary seat. What is this? Crack it open. A cooperation agreement was within. Next to her name is mine. You're no longer a mentee, she remarked. It's time to formally announce it. I'm at a loss for words, Caden. Say yes. After that, assist me in reading the starting images. Tomorrow, we have 20 meetings. My phone sprang to life. Elizabeth texted, "Today, Mom, ask for your website." She wants to see your creation. Advancement. Caden laughed when I showed him. Google baby steps are discovered by the prodigal family. I returned the type. Make sure she reads the Forbes piece. The one where women are transforming technology. Caden mocked. Look at you flaunting yourself. No, I clarified, revealing my true self to them. They simply didn't see it. Simon's crew poured in to celebrate their achievement as the entrance to the bar opened. They got beverages, drew up chairs, and spoke about their dreams. I saw these intelligent women who had grown to be my true family. Caden nodded toward the window, talking about seeing things. A young woman with a laptop in her hand was pacing outside. Another aspiring business owner? I inquired. Does she look familiar? She was getting the guts to make a change in her life, much like someone else I knew. I got to my feet. I'll be right back. When I opened the door, the woman jumped. I apologize, I read about you in Forbes and I have this business proposal. Come on in. I kept the door open. The first rule of success. Don't fail to pitch. Her gaze expanded. Really? Actually, I think it's important to give back. I pointed to our table of accomplished ladies. You are in excellent company too. I saw the last parts come together as she settled down and began to share her thoughts with shaky eagerness. Retaliation was never the point here. It has nothing to do with success. It was about bringing people up as you go, breaking cycles and constructing bridges. It was the final buzzing of my phone. Adrian. Elizabeth gave us an update on today. When he read about your award ceremony, Dad truly grinned. Perhaps one day. I didn't complete it. Tomorrow was the day. Tonight was a celebration of our collective progress and an opportunity to assist another lady in taking her first steps toward independence. Of all the retaliation, that was the finest.